Well, there is a new darling of the Conservative Party members today, a self-styled teller of home truths, who was only elected first as an MP 5 years ago. Kemi Badenoch topped the latest Conservative Home poll of members after catching eyes during the two TV debates over the weekend, giving us the latest twist in the rollercoaster race to be their next Prime Minister. And I'm pleased to say the former local government minister, until she resigned last week, that is, Kemi Badenoch, joins me now. Ms Badenoch, very good to see you. Thank you for coming on the news desk.
Thanks, Tom. Nice to be here.
Let's talk about the tone this contest is taking first. Personal insults hurled during those TV debates, mud slung from rival camps day after day. Why do you think it's all got so nasty so quickly?
I don't think it's got nasty, actually. I do think that we're just having the arguments which we've all been having behind closed doors, just in front of everyone else. Many of us who are standing are friends, and I think sometimes things get heated, but actually there are no hard feelings afterwards. People are making far more of it than is the reality. And in fact, the thing about impugning people's integrity is coming from elsewhere. It's not coming from the candidates.
All right. Another way of looking at this contest, which might be perhaps the attitude you're adopting, is that if you want to be Prime Minister, you really do need to stand up to this sort of heavy scrutiny. And there's nothing wrong with really testing out candidates and testing out rival candidates if you're one.
I think that it's absolutely right that we all face scrutiny. I'm not afraid of difficult questions. I love getting questions, actually, because it's an opportunity to set out my stall and for people to understand how I think about solving problems. And I think that should be the case for everybody. But what people should not expect is that candidates who are putting forward different pitches on why they should be Prime Minister should all be singing exactly from the same hymn sheet. That would not be the honest thing to do. We all need to say the truth about what we're thinking.
OK, the truth is a good thing. Let me ask you, though, if you're perhaps a little bit embarrassed that so much of this contest debate so far has been taken up by gender identity and trans issues, when it's a serious interest to, let's be honest, a minority of the population, and just 3% of Tory party members state it as one of their priorities.
I think that's right. We answer the questions that we're asked. That's not something that I've put in my policy platform. I've written multiple op-eds and I've talked about doing government better. I've talked about policing. I've talked about devolution. But what is interesting is that the press are very interested in this topic, and I won't shy away from answering questions, but I will continue to set out the stall about what my priorities are.
Let's talk about you, a subject I'm sure you'd be more comfortable with. You've topped the latest Conservative Home poll of members. They want you to be their Prime Minister now. Why do you think that is?
I think at the moment it's because I am saying things that resonate with the party members. I don't shy away from telling difficult truths, as I've been repeating over and over again. I think it is actually my USP that I trust people to take the right decisions if we are straight with them. And I think that the other thing that's happening is that many people didn't know who I was before this campaign started, and now they're getting to know me and they like what they see.
OK. One thing that you know people will throw at you is your lack of experience at the very top of government. You've never run a government department, you've been a government minister, but you've never run your own department, you've never been in the cabinet. What do you say to people who say to you, how can we trust you to run a country when we don't know what even running a ministry would be like?
Well, what I would say to them is we had David Cameron and Tony Blair, who didn't have any of that experience. Leader of the opposition doesn't count. It's not running a department. And actually, one of the people who's supporting me the most is Michael Gove. He is the minister who has had more experience than everyone else who is in cabinet. And what I would also say is that it's about what you do with the job. Many people have been in and out of cabinet and have sat at a table and haven't done anything with it. And I ask people to look at my record, look at what I did with the responsibilities that were given to me and how I made a success of them. And that's how they'll know what kind of Prime Minister I'll be.
OK, let me ask you about a couple of things that you're offering as part of your agenda. You say that you're the candidate of honesty, but you also say you want to cut taxes to help with the cost of living. You want to cut an awful lot of taxes, corporation tax, fuel duty. You want to raise the income tax threshold, the tax-free threshold. You want to do an awful lot. How are you going to pay for all that? And how is that really honest in these times of huge national debt and inflation?
Well, if you look at what I've actually said, I said I would like to reduce personal and income taxes, but the only thing I have committed to is the fuel duty, and I have explained how we will fund that. Because energy prices have gone up, we actually have made more money from fuel duty as a government. That's something that we can give back to people. So talking about tax cuts in and of themselves, I think is wrong. Tax cuts are a means to an end. They're not an end in themselves. It's about making sure that people can cope with the cost of living without reducing public services. So I have said what we can do in the immediate term around the cost of living crisis. I've talked about doing an emergency budget that will help shape a longer-term economic plan.
OK, let's talk about climate change, if we can. Today's quite an opportune moment to do that. Are there any circumstances in which you would delay the UK's target to hit net zero carbon emissions by 2050?
Yes, there are circumstances where I would delay it, but I think that the target itself is a bit of a red herring. We need to look at the plan. We keep talking about an aspiration. We keep doing government by announcement, government by press release. What I want to see is what is the reasonable plan to get to net zero and to solve the climate change problem. I believe that there is climate change changing our environment, and that is something that I think we do need to tackle. I've seen it firsthand, but we have to do it in a way that doesn't bankrupt our economy. We've got to take people with us. The legislation we've put in is for 2050. That is a long, long time in the future. Practically none of us will still be here to be held accountable for it. So I think it's a red herring. What would happen if we moved it to 2060 or 2070? We're not going to be here. Let's be realistic about what we can do now with the responsibility and the power and the levers that we have available.
All right, you like the target, but you admit if there's no working plan, you would be prepared to delay it.
I think I can understand why a target has been put in place. It's something that lots of countries are signing up to globally. It's a good, it's a reasonable aspiration. But what does it mean in practice? Setting a target is not delivering. How are we going to do it? And so I don't like the premise of the question, do you think 2050 is right or wrong? The truth is, if you can't answer how much it's going to cost, if you can't answer how you're going to do it, then you might as well say 2150 or 2250. It's neither here nor there.
OK, Kemi, final question. We know a little bit about you. We know you worked in McDonald's, perhaps. We don't know a huge amount more, a lot in the wider world anyway. Tell us one thing the public really didn't know about you.
Well, I had many more jobs other than McDonald's because I had to pay my way through college. Many people think it was some Saturday job. I was actually at college part-time and doing that work. But I had some very interesting jobs at university as well. I worked on a building site. And I was the site secretary, so I wasn't doing any actual building, but I was the site secretary, and I was the only woman, and I think there were up to 300 men working on there. So I was the only woman except for the catering staff, which was very interesting. And that was summer of 2000, I think, when I did that. It was a temp job, so I did lots of temp jobs. Yeah.
Good practice for running a male government, perhaps. Kemi Badenoch, thanks so much for talking to me.